All right. What's up? Anime Autistic here. And I'm really excited about this video. And I don't know why I'm excited, because I'm going to be talking about war, which is complete and total hell, from what I understand. I've never been in a war. I've never served as a soldier. So I don't personally know really what war is like. But from what I understand, it is complete and total hell. Kind of an atrocity that we have. And but I really liked Vinland Saga from last year. I know a lot of other people liked it too. And really what I'm doing here, I'm not really like giving it a harsh criticism. I just kind of want to critique it on how it is as a war story. Because I think there's some things that it could have done better. Now, I know that part of it was just kind of part of it. And it's almost not even like a prelude, but it's just the first part of the bigger, greater story of Thorfinn. But this part heavily did deal with war that was going on in around him constantly. For how long was it? 10 years? Something like that? So, I mean, he was dealing with it for a while. And it played an important part in the story, as we saw in Season 1. I do want to say, and Vinland Saga, like I said, I'm not trying to badmouth it. I thought it was a fantastic series. Like, when I talk about it, I just know, really, I didn't have any complaints with it. Like, there was nothing really wrong with it. The only thing that I would say is slightly wrong with it was that Thorkel was way too strong. Like, he was just ungodly strong amongst all these men with pretty typical normal strength. Some of them were really, really strong. I know it was, what was his name? Bjorn? Was that his name? Like Askeladd's number 2 ate mushroom and got freakishly strong. Kind of. But even he was nothing compared to Thorkel. That'd be really my only thing that I would say was kind of wrong with it. Everything else it did really well. It's a well done show. It does a lot of things that... like, it didn't do anything kind of typical. It didn't do too many tropes. I thought it was a nice, interesting watch. I thought it was a very, very good show. And before I get into kind of saying how is it as a war story, I do want to say that the depiction of war in the show was very good as well. Like, it showed that the battlefront is a frightening play, like maybe not up to, or quite the extent that a lot of things should. Like, it didn't show it, it is hell, but it did show that it's a frightening place. It takes a toll. It's you have to be bloodthirsty to survive. At least have to be bloodthirsty to thrive in the situation, for sure. And it showed the violence of it, the cutthroatness of it. It did show, evasion's part of war, that you have to, look at resources, etc., etc. So the depiction of war in it was pretty good. Just the violent nature of war was depicted very well in the show. So I won't fault it for that at all. And by those standards, it does really well, and better than a lot of other shows. I'm going to be talking about Code Geass a couple times when talking about this, and I think it does it better than that, because I don't think Code Geass war is a part-time job to Lelouch, which is BS, kind of. I mean, it is kind of BS comparative to kind of everything else that was going on. And I'll leave out time about Full Metal Alchemist too. In Full Metal Alchemist, it does show war as bad, but that's kind of the soldiers talking about war. Like, it's their interpretation of what happened, but we don't really see it too much. We do see some of the Ishvalan genocide. We don't see a ton of it. And it is pretty messed up. When we do see it, we see what Kimli did, and just how much of a lunatic Kimli was, which, so it does show it some. But I do think the Vinland Saga does do a good depiction of war, as it being a violent, frustrating, scary place. So past just the depiction of it, And looking at it as a story, as a war story, the first thing I kind of think of when I think of war is strategy. Because that's what you need to win wars. And that's why we have wars. And ultimately that's how, wars are fought, through strategy. It's not like a lot of other things. It's not like, it's not Fairy Tail, Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you have a bunch of heart, the power of friendship's going to push you through it. Actual war doesn't in any way work that way. So a lot of it comes down to strategy. And when I was thinking of Vinland Saga and just kind of how is it doing as a war story, because when I saw it, all this season 1 was a war story. And I couldn't help but compare it to other shows and how they tell a war story. I looked at like I said, I looked at Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Code Geass, and I looked at like Attack on Titan as well. And I feel like a lot of those had kind of more strategic plans going on in it. In Code Geass, Lelouch, just every single battle is him not necessarily playing a game, but it is him strategizing in every single battle and all of that. Every single one, because, he plays it like a game of chess, and he learns that you can't exactly play like a game of chess, because, people aren't always going to listen to you just based off of a command, which is interesting because he has the power to command people, so that's what makes it very interesting. But the strategy behind Code Geass is very interesting, very good. And it's kind of layered. There's a grandiose plan, and then there's, plans just on its own of, how are we going to win this battle? And it's a battle-to-battle kind of thing going on with these different mechs. And he really does, it does hammer down the strategy aspect of knowing the enemy, knowing what they're going to do. It's very Art of War heavy, big time. The same thing kind of goes for Attack on Titan with the strategizing that Erwin does, the calculated losses, they have a battle plan, they have formations, it's all, put out there. I definitely think that is the most strongly shown in the 57th survey mission where they encounter the female Titan. I think that arc there, that's my favorite arc in the show. All of Attack on Titan is pretty damn good, but that's my favorite arc of it. And in that arc, they have all these different battle strategy and how they're gonna, how they proceed next and what to do next and calculate losses and how do they even run? Are they head for the fort? They head for those the giant tree forest, etc. The shooting of the smoke guns and to lead the way and what they're going to do and the formation behind that. Where is Eren? Where is Eren actually? He didn't communicate the information correctly, and that's just in that arc. When you get to Shiganshina, that's a totally different thing on its own. When he's in when they get to Shiganshina, and they're having to battle Titans there, and that's a different. And they have to come up with a different strategy. So when I think of that, I'm like, yo, that did Vinland Saga really show that very much? And it, to me, no, it didn't really. Full Metal Alchemist, Brotherhood, towards the end they were they were strategizing, and it was at least laid out. And what we saw for war is you can come in like a horde, and if you get swatted down, you retreat, and you retreat for a while. That's really what we saw of strategy. We saw we saw political strategizing from Askeladd and Canute, which was interesting. I was so not expecting that this show about Vikings was going to give me a very interesting political plot. So, like I said, for that, Vinland Saga is really good. Doesn't do what you're fully expecting. So, while it nailed depiction, I feel the way that it emphasized the impact of war wasn't dealt with in the keenest of ways. And by that I mean that there's an aftermath to war, and there's something that it does to a person. And to that, it did do that with Thorfinn, and it did it pretty well with Thorfinn, where it made him almost, he was like a walking zombie. Past the prologue of him and Thor's, and him being a child. Once he got to be a young man, he was out of it. He was completely shut off and everything like that. So it did do that well. The impact on the person, but the importance and the impact that war has, I don't think was really expanded too much upon. Let me kind of explain what I mean when I say it wasn't fully expanded upon. In Berserk, when they find, in the Golden Age arc, towards the very beginning, not only does it talk some about strategy, but you see that war is consuming. It is a consuming force. And in Vinland Saga, it does show that too. The king has to come. But that was more when he already felt like the war was won. And it's not just Berserk. It's other shows too. But, in just Berserk, it was an all-consuming thing, war was. You have to sleep, breathe, eat war. I mean, Griffith was supposed to be a man of the court, and he couldn't ever really take his mind off the battlefield, because he knew the battlefield was his way to achieve, to be strong. How Griffith would have fared in a time of peace, we don't know. But he knew, he always had to be thinking of war. Now, war was not what consumed him, but that's a different thing. But it does show the impact of war on a man and on the surrounding countries, everything like that. We didn't really see how the war was affecting the Dutch, or they were in France for a little bit, how it was affecting the French, or really how it was affecting the English either. We weren't really seeing, the impact of war on those societies, on those cultures. I'll go back to Attack on Titan. We see how scared the individuals are, how much passion you have to put in to fight back, how much planning you have to put in to fight back against overwhelming odds, etc. I know a lot of people don't count Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I'm not really talking about just anime here. I'm talking about as a war story. In that story, the world was devastated by war. Aang wanted to be a pacifist. He wanted to bring about peace. And in that show, the whole show is him fighting against this war, trying to lead the world on a different path than what it was currently at. That show as well. And it had kind of an overarching, I guess there's a philosophy to war, and there's a philosophy to preventing war too. Because nobody really wants, nobody should want to get into war. National leaders that just are warmongers, we look at them as monsters, because they are. Like Napoleon, he was a great strategist, great leader. He was a mother effing monster, guys. Like, he was, Caesar was brilliant strategist, had, charisma, was intelligent, was just, kind of almost the pinnacle of what you want strength-wise to a conqueror. He is a monster, too! And that's kind of, what we learn. That's just actual real life. That's actual events and people in history. So that's the little, Avatar spin to it. And then there's the full Gundam, like everything in the Gundam franchise. All of the Gundam franchise about war. And it's never depicted as a good thing. And that Gundam does a good depiction. But it's not just the depiction of it. It's the reason for the war. Why the war occurs. What is entailed by a war. That's what I mean by the impact. And in this, it's there. I'm not going to say it's void of impact of war. Because it's there. But it's not really a means to tell the story, I guess is what I mean. Like, there's nothing really to garner from the war being part of the show. And that's what's kind of frustrating to me, is that it's not really... The war being an aspect of the show isn't necessarily adding to it in terms of, like, the context, or the, you know, the meta narrative. There's not too much there to hold on to, being like, oh, this is a war story. One thing that I did feel actually was kind of void of it was the need for victory. What they, you know, Askeladd and his men, they wanted victory, and then they got victory, and then they wanted victory, and then they got victory. But the need for victory, because they're mercenaries. But the need for victory means something has been relinquished, tamed, and that there is now a time of peace somewhere. For the most part. And that there is a coming of a new age kind of thing as well. Which it did kind of have that, the coming of the new age. But the need for victory wasn't there. And in a war story, I feel like there had, you know, what the hell was Thorfinn fighting for? You know, what the hell was Askeladd really... what the hell was Askeladd really even fighting for? You know, we didn't... There was nothing to really draw me in to want to be invested in the war. It just was kind of the politics later on in the season. But the parts where it's war, you're like, don't die. But it didn't grip. It didn't grip. And the need for victory has that grip. You know, when you watch Saving Private Ryan, it's not even necessarily a need for victory. It's a need to save, you know, Private Ryan. And I don't need to tell you, if you've seen Saving Private Ryan, I don't need to tell you how good it is, because you know it's a great show. So, but it had an absence of necessity to it, Vinland Saga. But, you know, and it's still not bad. But as far as a war story, that's something that it needed. It really needed that if it was going to be a war story. And it ended up... So to me, like, it's hard... And it was a war story. So I felt like on that front, it just... Meh. It was meh, is what I had to say. They talked... There really wasn't too much discussion of the cost of war. And by that I mean, like, the manpower and the actual physical cost. Which was kind of the theme of Berserk, was of sacrifice, especially towards the very end of, you know, the 97 series. It's all about that. And the same thing in Attack on Titan, you know. Whereas in Attack on Titan, like, there was metaphysics of being a devil, being, you know, overcoming your humanity to do it. The same kind of concept, to a good point, with kind of Code Geass as well, where it's like, you have to manipulate. You can't... War, you know, you can't be fair in war. There's no such thing as being fair in war. Nothing's even. Nothing's clean. Nothing's clean about war. You know, you always have to get your hands dirty. You always have to get your hands dirty. It's just kind of the theme there. And that's kind of what I mean by the cost. Like, it's not just of your men, of your wealth, but of souls, of you know, morality of groups of people have to be you know, brought down. It cost so much for war, and in this we kind of see it. For that point, it is good on that. It's good on just showing the depravity of of these Vikings and stuff. Like, you have to slaughter. That's the word for it. You can't kill. You have to slaughter. So on that, it was good. On that part, it's good. On the part of the resources, etc., not so good. Didn't feel that great. But then again, trying to remember Code Geass, I don't feel like that had that too much. Berserk had that. Berserk, a lot of it, a plot point was Griffith having to, kind of sleep his way around rich men to have resources for his army. God, Berserk's good. It's good. It's real good. And then as far as Attack on Titan too, for Attack on Titan, and I feel like this is almost unfair to compare it to Attack on Titan and like Full Metal Alchemist, because they're just so written. Like Full Metal Alchemist, just in general, it's like one of the best manga of all time is when it comes to actual story writing. And then Attack on Titan is just such a, I guess what I'm saying in this video is that you need to watch Attack on Titan and Full Metal Alchemist instead. I don't know. That's not really what I'm saying. But to close it up, to close on this very last topic, it's about the struggle for power, which I also feel all these shows do have. All these shows have it, the struggle for power, And Avatar, Code Geass, Berserk, Full Metal Alchemist, Attack on Titan, and in Vinland Saga, we do have all that explored. And that part is done very well. Like I said, it's not done poorly as a war story. In general, it's pretty good. There's some things that are just essential that I think are lacking big time in it. Especially the cost of war and the need for victory. I think that those two things are big time missing. We do see the depravity. Depravity was good on that. But other than that, cost of war was no good. And then I know that there was strategy. It just wasn't it wasn't engaging strategy. Now the impact of war was decent in it as well. It just all could have been done better, and I'd seen it done better. But the struggle for power was done exceptionally, pretty exceptionally, I gotta say, for the most part. Now, it was about the politics of everything and all that, but we at least got to see it in a very interesting way. Now, is it more interesting in Code Geass? And is it more interesting in Attack on Titan? Yeah, it is. But it is still done really well in Vinland Saga because we see it through Prince Canute, kind of how he's wanting to, take the throne, etc. We do see kind of the thoughts behind Askeladd and the connection, how the different nations were connecting, etc. How that was working too. So on that point, I would give Vinland Saga, or at least a solid, if I had to rate these, let me look at these. Strategy, 1 out of 10. There's that scene in the forest where they finally capture or, get Canute from the English, army. So, I'd give it maybe 5 for the strategy. Impact of war, that one's not bad. I would give it a 6. Maybe 6.5, something like that. The need for victory was almost absent. I'd have to say 3, maybe, for the need for victory that we see from it. They were fighting. The cost of war, again, probably 5. And then struggle for power, I'd give it 8. I would say, so overall, as a war story, not the best war story, but as a story itself, pretty good so far. Pretty interesting. I'm interested to see where it goes from here, because where it left off is like, whoa. I don't want to spoil anything. I read a little bit of the manga ahead. Haven't read a ton past that, but I've read some, and it does have me interested. It has me interested enough to at least read a little bit ahead of the manga to see what's happening so far. I probably won't continue to read the manga. I usually only read manga when I'm really, really invested in the anime. And there's just so many anime out there. There are some manga that I read, but, it's kind of rare. It's a little rare. I watch way more anime than I do read manga. But anyway, that's what I had to say about Vinland Saga. As far as a war story, But I'm happy to do it. Happy to do this for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested for something else that I had to say about Vinland Saga, just as how it was, past the war story, how was everything else wise, the animation, the characters, the story itself, the narrative, how I felt about that. I do have a podcast called It's My Turn to Geek with my friend Eric. So that'll be out eventually. Don't know exactly when. I don't have an exact posting schedule. But you can keep your ear to the ground for that and listen to some of the other stuff we do. Thank you so much. Leave a like if you thought I had some interesting input on this. If you have some of the things that you think I could have expanded upon, if you think that there's something that you saw that I didn't see, leave it in the comments. I would love that. Share this around. That would be a huge blessing to let people know. It really gets my face out there. And subscribe for more content like this. Peace out. Bye.